episode. Today I am joined by the wonderful, the beautiful, both inside and out, Maruxa Murphy. I met Maruxa, maybe about 5 years ago in Austin, Texas, when I'd gone to a conference. It was called Capitalism Conference. And she was working with an entrepreneur, Ryan Moran. I was part of his backroom mastermind. And I really saw Maruxa and her bubbling personality, and it really stood out. And I was just naturally attracted to want to know who she is, what she does, and where she gets her magic from. So we were able to connect in Austin. And since then, I've really seen her branch out. So she left Ryan and started working on her own. She built a coffee business called Perky Perky. You guys should check it out if you're a coffee connoisseur. If you need caffeine to get started, I highly recommend that brand. So we'll talk about Perky Perky. What I've seen Maruxa do over the past few months, in fact, a year or two, I guess, ever since the pandemic is when I started noticing it. I'm not quite sure how long you've been working on it, is she's been really leveraging a superpower, which is her ability to build communities. And she's been doing this online. And she's not just doing this just to do it, but she's doing it and monetizing it and really turning it into a business with purpose and also impact. And the impact that she's creating is within the people, within the community, but also for the entrepreneurs as well as herself. And, Facebook gave you an award, I believe. Do I remember correctly?
So Facebook actually came to me in 2017 because they said, "Wow, what is this?" They actually came to me and they said, "You're doing something really interesting with these groups." And I thought I was like in trouble or something. And they were like, "No, we love what you're doing. It's so engaging."
So we'll get into that story. I was still just introducing you. So anyway, Facebook saw what she was doing and they were like, "Hey, we want a little bit of that magic." And they gave an amazing award. So she'll talk about that story. So I really wanted to bring her on this episode because a lot of you entrepreneurs that watch my videos, right? One of the things that you're always thinking about is, how do I build a community around my brand? Well, instead of me trying to answer it, I've brought in an expert who can really then just dive into it. And she's going to share some of the tips and tricks of how she's been able to build these highly engaged communities that really deliver an ROI to the entrepreneur and to your business and to your brand. So Maruxa, I'm really, really excited to have you here. And just share your journey, mainly around create, sell, impact first, and then we can dive into other things as well.
Sounds great. Kuda, thank you so much for having me. It has been a blast knowing you for the last 5 years, which I can't believe it's been 5 years. That's crazy. So community is like breathing to me. I'm one of 39 first cousins because my mom's one of 11 brothers and sisters. And so I grew up in community. I was raised in community.
Wow.
And what I realized is that most of the world did not have that. I didn't know that until I got to college and realized, people don't know how to show up in community. And I think right now, why I'm so passionate about it, Kuda, is because we're in this incredible Renaissance time of our lives. And the Renaissance that we're all in right now is how the heck do we make this world of being virtual all the time, at least 80% of the time, work for us? Work for us as business owners, work for us as leaders, work for us as voice creators, makers of impact in the world. And
Yep.
And truthfully, that's really, for me, I've built over 100 communities, Kuda, over the last 22 years. Some face-to-face and many, many more online. But the reason they've been so engaged and the reason they have created multiple 6 figures and 7 figures for their businesses is because I never stray away from the number one element that we need to have in every community, whether it's a virtual one or an in-person one. And that's to remember that there are heartbeats in the room, which is crazy. Right? It sounds so simple, but it's like we forget. Because we're looking at our numbers. We're looking at how many sales were brought in, how much engagement, what is the engagement score, what's the active member score, et cetera. But we're forgetting that there are people in the room. And with every person in the room, that means we have a multitude of people interested in being curious about the world, of learning how to be in love with life or with themselves or with others, figuring out pain and confusion and anger and frustration. All these emotions are in every single person that you touch, whose life you touch, right? So if we can remember that first and bring that into what I call, bring the heartbeat and the humanity back to the human race as we dive into this new renaissance of being online, what is possible? What is possible? So that's kind of let's just call it what it is. That's part of my secret sauce, is just helping people be human in any space that we're given. And that's
interesting. And in 2020, obviously with the pandemic, I think the ability to create virtual communities became something that was critical, because we're all sheltering in place. Yeah. And a lot of businesses that were leveraging the in-person interaction really needed to figure out how to, go around the virtual route. So, yes. What did you see during the pandemic, and how were you able to, reach the massive results that you reached in the space? And one thing I would like for you to maybe dive into is to actually go into sharing some of the results that you saw, so that it becomes tangible for the people who are listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, gosh, we have had some incredible experiences that we've been designing since the pandemic. Clients were coming to me, maybe they had live events and they were like, oh my gosh, like it's gone. Like, we don't know how to like salvage what just happened. All this money was just thrown away in essence because of the pandemic. And so I really had to spend some time teaching my clients how to utilize the tools. Now we all know Zoom now, we all know our basic tools going around, but like how to use them in such a way that really keeps engagement happening without sacrificing the engagement in essence. So meaning, how do you have an event without sacrificing engagement? How do you have an experience? How do you design communities to be an experience versus just a group, right? And so one of the initial communities that we launched was a community in the webinar space. They teach webinars. They had a community of about 5,000, but it was dead. Like nobody, it was like crickets, and there was a lot of spam. Have you ever been in a group that's like full of just like, hey, buy my thing and buy my thing, and how about you buy my thing? That was what it was. So basically what we did is we decided, okay, well, we want to revive this community. And, we just so happen to have this event. We turned our in-person event to a virtual event. And that was going to happen within like the next 6 weeks. So what can we do to design this? And basically what showed up is we created it, we designed it in such a way that we invited the people that were coming to the virtual event to be a part of this community, while also really invigorating and re-engaging members that have kind of been sleepy in that community in and of itself to know about the event. So kind of like both and. And the result was that after having done this for a 6-week period of time, we were able to see $1.2 million in revenue for that client that came from that event. And the group had over 1,000% engagement score, not just during the event, but even after the event, because we were starting to really utilize that group to bring in such powerful conversation around that topic. So if we create, when I'm creating a community, I'm paying attention to not only the heartbeats and the humanity, that's where we start, but also what is the profit path? What are the offers? What is the experience, what I call the experiential value, the thing that is really going to be driving culture that make people want to come back over and over and over again, so that they want to, they want to be a part of the experience, right? And then make sure that we're fulfilling our promises on the back end of any sales that we're wanting to create, so that it doesn't become a customer support forum, but this becomes a space where there's so much value given.
Let's back up a little bit. You said you generated $1.2 million in revenue.
Yes.
For your customer in 12 months?
In 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks.
What were they selling? Like, was it an ebook, an info product? Was it a physical product?
That in that particular client, so from their event, they had an $11,000 program that they launched, as well as a $25,000 program. So they're higher ticket products,
Okay,
right?
it makes sense. It makes sense because I was like, if they're like, boxes of cookies that are worth $30,
No,
whoa, that must have been a lot of traffic. Okay,
a lot of
so
traffic. But
yeah.
here's the thing, like, I mean, but here's really what's the power of what I'm saying. Yeah, those are high ticket, and we can just be like, oh, it's because it's high ticket. But also the other piece to this, the sauce here was that they were giving so much value, and they're utilizing the community to feed that value back to the community, meaning they are giving the value. It's spurring on a culture within the experience that's like elevated, that people are like, oh my gosh, you're giving me this much. Well, I want to match that vibration level of
Mhm.
yes, that vibration of giving. And I want to give too. So after designing out this experience, it was all this like high amped up, delicious goodness that was happening in that room that then led to people wanting to be a part of it even more. Right. So those were our initial sales. But if you were able to see where that client is now, right, they just had their year 2 of their event. And then, and had even more sales because of that, and a deepening of the relationships that they have been designing over the last year. So one of the core things about building communities that I think most people have to remember, it's not just in that case, yeah, there was some short-term gain, nice short-term gain, but the real power is in the long-term relationship, the long-term building of that connection with those individuals that they started building those connections with about a little under 2 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's what we have to remember. It's like, yes, you can have beautiful gains like that short-term. Or maybe that might not be your numbers. Maybe it's a little bit less than that. But the consistency of building those connections and the relationships make for a much more powerful long-term business overall. Because you're not having to acquire new customers every time. You're able to actually develop and design a relationship with those customers over a longer period of time.
So, in your journey to achieving this, what challenges did you face personally as a mompreneur? Right, you have 3 beautiful daughters. You're busy with them, and then you have these 2 businesses that you're building.
Yes.
So, what were some of the challenges that you faced? And number 2, how did you overcome those challenges? If indeed if you were able to overcome them, which I think you did.
I love that question. I think people sometimes look at me and they're like, you don't sleep, right? You don't. And I'll have to say, when they were younger, I definitely did not sleep. But as I've gotten older and realized what's most important to me, I've had to learn how to say that I want to have these 2 businesses. So how do I make them work for me? Right. I was actually
Mhm.
having a conversation with a colleague of mine just before we got on here, and we were talking about this exact thing. So, and from the perspective of what I call negative expectancy versus positive expectancy. So negative expectancy is the immediate like reaction of saying, oh, it's just never going to work. So,
Mhm.
many people came to me and they said, oh, you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have like a little side business, right? It's going to be cute. Aw. And that was their expectancy from me and my journey. To be honest, I had that was my biggest challenge too, right? For the longest time, I thought I could only build something small. That was something
So
that
is
was
this is can we classify this as maybe imposter syndrome? I guess.
I would say it's a little bit different than imposter syndrome. For me, it was more like, well,
Well, it's coming from you, right? Because you're like, maybe
yeah,
you could be saying like, who am I to create something big? I'm just gonna create something small.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know.
Yeah, yes. So yeah, I mean, for sure, that was a part of it then. Yes, from that perspective, like for a long time, I would only imagine myself being able to make 6 figures, right? I would only be able to see myself doing like 100,000 a year. Okay, if I can only do that, then I'm okay, right?
So one of my
That's what
mentors,
I'm talking about. That's the expectancy.
yeah.
So you know what I mean?
So yeah. So one of
I
my
see.
mentors, Myron Golden, likes to say that if you fight for your limitations, you
Mm.
get to keep them.
Hmm.
So if you're limited at 6-figure business, and
Yeah.
you fight for it and you say like, hey, that's who I am, that's my thing, you get to keep it. I always hear people say, I'm not a numbers person.
Yeah.
Well, if you keep owning it and you keep fighting for that limitation, you're never going to understand the numbers, because you will
Correct.
never really um, get in that state where you're willing to take the action to learn, because there's always that program that's running in your subconscious that tells you like, hey, this is not really you. And
Exactly.
what I've seen is that whatever goal you set out to achieve, if you
Hmm.
believe you can achieve it first, the belief, right? The strategy and everything else, that comes later. The first
Yeah.
thing is, if you believe that you can do it, that and only then is when you can actually achieve it. Because the thing with goals is you need to become someone else to
Yes.
then become the person who can do it. So before
Exactly.
you mentally become a seven-figure entrepreneur, it's going to be very hard for you to get there, because you will self-sabotage yourself. Because when you start making decisions, or having to take the action you need to take in order to become a seven-figure entrepreneur, for
Hmm.
you it'll be like, that's not me. I'm not that person yet, so it'll be
Right.
very difficult for you to get there. So it's interesting that you shared that as a lesson.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Perky Perky. How's Perky Perky doing?
It's
Did
good.
you lose the love, or were you able to balance the two? Because sometimes when you have a newborn, it's tricky to give businesses the same amount of attention that they need.
I love that you asked that question. And you and I have done work together on the Perky Perky side as well. And in that, yeah, you've seen how my passion has always been like for that community. Um, and yeah, right now we're at a place where it's interesting, right? When you're building multiple companies, you only are one per you again. Okay, maybe this is my own limiting stuff right here showing up, but um, I've noticed that I've had to like love it as it is for this season, not try to grow it, not try to like overly build it. Why? Because I have a lot going on right now, and this company with Create Sell Impact has really been, it's been really taking my heart on as well and saying, okay, what else can we design? What else can we build? I'm working with a resort in Maui right now that's really creating a partnership between the local community and the Maui residents and guests coming to Maui. And we're building this beautiful hybrid online and face-to-face community together. That's been taking more energy than my coffee company, right? Now, that being said, I have a great team that is helping me keep it stable, right? So
Mhm.
that's a piece of what, as you were mentioning challenges, like I thought I had to be the one doing it all myself for the longest time. And what I started to recognize is the more I can delegate and really empower people to take on certain aspects of our business and have that as their responsibility. Wow, that's a gift to both of us, right? It's not just a gift to me, it's a gift to me and as the founder of the company, but it's also a gift to them. I'm offering an opportunity for work to somebody and also to get out of their own way and create something that's so much bigger than what I could ever do personally,
Mhm.
right? So that has been a lot of fun to expand myself in that way, and just to see like what else can I do to challenge myself and my beliefs around trying to grow things or not. But I caught myself even just here on this interview being like, oh wait, maybe I can actually give even more responsibility over to certain team members to grow that even more. So
That's beautiful. So for the listener who's watching, and if you were to give them like one piece of advice that they should really take with them and walk away with, what would that be,
mm,
right? So I'm just curious to get a sense as to, for you, what is that kind of like one anchoring message that keeps you going?
hmm. Gosh, I have a lot of messages. And I think the one that's really sticking to me right now is to remember that us as humans, we really matter in the conversation of building community. Um, there's so much beautiful stuff happening right now in the NFT space and the Bitcoin space and in all these virtual experiences. And it's great. But if we forget who we are as people going through these journeys and these adventures and building our own communities and building our businesses, we're missing out on the best part of the journey. So remember that we're human, number one, as leaders, and to bring those pieces of ourselves into our business. We don't have to hustle our ways to growing community, by the way. That's old school. That's like before 2020. And what we really need to bring now is connection back to ourselves and then to the people that we want to serve. And if we do that well, we have a business that's going to outlast any recession, anything that we're seeing that feels kind of in a sense of space of turmoil.
So thank you so much for that message. Maruxa actually has a gift for you guys. If you go to createsellimpact.com, you'll be able to get a free gift, and you'll be able to get 300 content prompts. So if you're struggling with, what should I say within my community? What should I say to engage and build? This is a free gift. It's 300 prompts. Think about it. That's almost one per day. So go to createsellimpact.com, and all you just have to do is put in your name and your email, and boom, it'll hit your inbox. And you can use that tool to really start, your journey into building an online community if you don't have one, or to even just catalyze the growth for the one that you currently have, because it makes the planning easier. Maruxa, if people want to connect with you, how can they get in touch with you?
I love that question, because I do want to connect with them. Best possible way, Instagram. Find me at Maruxa Murphy. Super easy. I mean, the X throws it off, but look at my name right now and type that into Instagram. And then, or follow me. We have a Facebook group. So if you go to createsellimpact.com/Facebook, that I'm in there a lot. So feel free to connect with me there. You'll get to know me. You'll get to know some of the community architects that are on my team as well, like Portia Michelle and Sabrina Irsay and others who are learning how to do this. And we're all there to support you in designing your community.
Awesome. So I'm going to put all the links in the description below. So you can just click the links in the description. And Maruxa, thank you so much for being here. I love what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is much, much needed now. It's so timely than ever before. So if you're a business owner and you're trying to scale your business, you really need to focus on building a community, and go to createsellimpact.com to get those prompts, and just connect with Maruxa directly if you have any questions. And she'll be more than happy to help you on your journey. So thank you so much, Maruxa, and guys, we'll see you next time.